There is a pain for which there are few names, but which the soul knows intimately. It is the piercing anguish of finding in the world a person with whom you feel an instant, undeniable connection that transcends logic, but who, for concrete and seemingly insurmountable reasons, is impossible to have. It could be the status of a relation, the distance that separates the moment in life of each one. The result is the same, the feeling of being the victim of a cruel joke by the universe, a constant reminder of what your heart desires most, but which your hands cannot reach. And in the silence of your room, in the stillness of the night, a single question echoes incessant, a question that you address to the sky, to the universe, to God. Why? Why would life introduce me to this person? Why would the universe show me so clearly what my heart desires most, in the exact form that I cannot have? What is the purpose of this torture, this glimpse of paradise through a locked door? It is to the soul that asks this question. Carl Jung's depth psychology offers not an easy answer, but a reversal of perspective that can change everything. He teaches us that our self, the wise and ordering center of our psyche, the totality of our soul, is not primarily interested in happiness or the satisfaction of our ego. The grand project of the self is our individuation, our process of becoming whole. So this encounter is not a gift to your wounded ego. It is a sacred task for your growing soul. Imagine it this way. It is as if your soul, in its infinite wisdom, has given you an ancient and beautiful key. You walk through life and suddenly you come across a door that seems to have been made for that key. The key fits the lock. The fit is perfect. But try as you might, the door will not open. The purpose of this journey is not to open the door. It is forcing you to sit on the floor, take the key out of the lock, and finally study the intricate details that are engraved on. It is discovering what secrets about yourself, about your own wounds, and your own potential this key has come to reveal. This video will not give you a magic formula to get the person or to open the door. It intends to give you something infinitely more valuable. It will give you the treasure map that explains the sacred why behind your pain. Our goal together is to transform what today seems like a curse into what is perhaps one of the most powerful and precise blessings that your soul has ever orchestrated for your growth and for your final liberation. The first and most painful phase of this journey is that of great frustration. It is the vicious and exhausting cycle of thinking about the person all the time, of creating scenarios in your mind, of trying to use manifestation techniques to force reality to bend to your desire. It is the constant struggle against what is, a process that drains all your vital energy, that puts your life, your projects, and your other relationships in a state of suspension, as if nothing else could really begin until this chapter is resolved the way you want it to. To understand the purpose of this frustration, we need to differentiate between two central forces within us, the ego and the self. Our ego is the part of us that identifies with the I. It is the manager of our conscious life, and the ego wants, it needs to control, possess, plan, and win. The self, on the other hand, is the wise totality of our psyche, our divine center, which does not seek the victory of the ego, but the growth and balance of the entire soul. An impossible love situation, therefore, is the perfect battlefield, orchestrated by the self, where the tyranny and stubbornness of the ego can finally be confronted and defeated. And here is the revelation that can begin to alleviate your suffering. The impossibility you face is not an obstacle in your path. The impossibility is the path. Think about it. If you could have this person easily, your ego would be immediately satisfied. It would win the prize, and the profound lesson your soul needs to learn would be completely lost. The constant frustration, that pain that eats away at you from within, is not a punishment. It is the precise mechanism that your soul is using to force you to stop looking for answers and solutions outside yourself, and finally, exhausted from so much struggle, to turn your attention inward. To help with this process, you can perform a small ritual of conscious surrender. In a quiet moment, take a pen and paper and write a letter that you will never send to the universe, to God, or to your own self. In this letter, with all the honesty of your heart, declare your surrender. Say, I give up trying to control this outcome. I surrender my desire, my pain, and my frustration to a wisdom greater than my own. Please show me what I am to learn from all of this. This simple act of writing shifts your energy from struggle to observation, from resistance to receptivity. Imagine that your ego is a stubborn ship captain trying to navigate a violent storm with a completely wrong map, a map that only takes you where it wants to go. Impossible love is the giant, inevitable wave that rises and breaks the main mast of the ship. To the captain, it feels like the end of the world, a total loss of control. But this loss of control is not the end of the journey. It is the only chance for the wise current of the ocean, which is yourself, to finally take over and take the boat to the shore it was really meant to reach, and not to the fantasy island that the ego desired. Once the ego tires of fighting, a new type of suffering presents it. It is the pain of idealization. It is the act of placing this other person on an unattainable pedestal, of seeing in them all the virtues and qualities that we believe we do not possess. And in comparison, we feel inadequate, incomplete, lesser. It is the painful belief that true happiness, true life, only exists with that person, and that without them, we are condemned to a black and white existence. It is at this point that Jungian psychology offers us a mirror of blinding clarity. This impossible person you so idealize becomes the perfect screen for the projection of your anima, the image of your inner feminine soul if you are a man, or your animus, the masculine counterpart if you are a woman. She embodies, with an almost divine perfection, the qualities of your own soul that lie dormant, repressed, or underdeveloped within you. If you admire her for her freedom, it is because your own soul desperately yearns to be free. If you admire her for her strength and purpose, it is because your soul cries out for you to find your own strength and purpose. And here is the revelation that transforms the pain of admiration into a map to your power. The universe did not send you your missing other piece. It sent you a mirror to show you your own unlived potential, and the impossibility of union, the door that will not open, functions as a divine safety. It's a guarantee that you won't be content to just passively admire these qualities in the other person, but will be forced by the pain of absence to roll up your sleeves and develop each of these virtues within yourself. To start turning this admiration into action, you can do a potential inventory. Take out your notebook and, with an open heart, list the top 3 qualities that you most idealize and admire in this person. Be specific. Now, next to each of these qualities, commit to finding one small, almost insignificant action that you can take this week to start expressing that same energy. If it's their creativity, maybe your step is to buy a notebook and scribble for 10 minutes. If it's their calmness, maybe it's to practice a guided meditation before bed. The goal is to stop watching and start becoming the person you so admire. Think of this person and the connection you have as the trailer for an epic, exciting movie. The one that gives you goosebumps and makes you anxious for what's to come. The big mistake our ego makes is falling in love with the trailer and trying to live inside it. Your soul's calling, however, is something else. It is for you to use the immense inspiration of this trailer to get up from your seat, leave the theater, and go watch the entire film. A film whose story is your own life, with you and no one else in the lead role. Once we understand that this person is a mirror to our potential, the journey leads us to an even deeper and often more painful question. It is the question that arises when we look back and realize that this is not the first time. It is the anguish that whispered, "Why does this always happen to me? Why do I always fall in love with someone who is already taken, with someone who is emotionally unavailable, with someone who lives on the other side of the world, or with someone who somehow just cannot be?" The answer that depth psychology offers us is that the specific reason why this person is unavailable to you is not at all accidental. They are a perfect and painfully accurate mirror of your core wound, that oldest emotional pain, usually formed in childhood, that gave rise to your deepest limiting belief about yourself and love. And our unconscious, in its desperate attempt to heal this wound, leads us to a repetition compulsion, recreating the original scenario over and over again, in the hope that this time the outcome will be different. And here, wisdom becomes an accurate diagnosis. If you repeatedly attract someone who's already married, the lesson your soul is trying to teach you may be about your own worth, about learning to put yourself first and not accepting being a second option. If you attract someone who's emotionally unavailable, Perhaps the lesson is about learning to give yourself the love and validation you insist on seeking from someone who cannot give it to you. The external situation is not creating your pain. It is simply shining a powerful spotlight on your original wound so that this time it can finally be seen, embraced, and healed by you. To find the root of this wound, the invitation is to ask a question of deep courage. In a moment of stillness, allow yourself to do an emotional regression. Ask yourself, is the primary feeling that this impossible situation causes me, be it rejection, abandonment, the feeling of not being seen or not being chosen, a new feeling or a familiar one? Then go deeper. When was the first time in my life, usually in my childhood, that I felt exactly this way? Let the memory come to you without judgment. It is in looking at this first scene that we begin to understand the script that we have been repeating unconsciously. Think of this impossible person and the painful situation they can create as an MRI scan for your soul. It is an uncomfortable, noisy process that requires you to remain still while it operates, while it probes your deepest layers. But its sole and sacred purpose is not to hurt you. It is to reveal, with pinpoint accuracy, where the old fracture lies, where the hidden inflammation lies, so that the correct treatment, your self-knowledge, and your self-healing can finally begin. Once the wound is diagnosed, the journey takes us to the center of our emotional pain. It is the visceral pain of attachment. It is the suffering that arises from need, from the desire to possess, from the yearning to be chosen and validated. It is the pain that makes us compulsively check our cell phones for a signal, that makes us analyze every word and every silence. It is an energy of lack that consumes us and convinces us that our happiness depends entirely on an external factor, on a person who is beyond our control. And it is here that this experience offers us its highest and most difficult lesson, that of learning the crucial distinction between love and attachment. Attachment arises from our wounded ego and our needy inner child. Attachment says, "I need you to be happy. Your absence causes me unbearable pain." No love, true love, arises from our soul, from ourself, and love says, "I celebrate your existence. I desire your deepest happiness and peace, regardless of my participation in it." An impossible love situation is therefore the most rigorous and effective training ground that life could give us to learn how to purify our hearts. And the breaking of expectations here is profoundly liberating. The greatest and most lasting gift that this person can give you is not their love or their presence. It is the opportunity for you to finally learn to love them without needing absolutely anything in return. The moment that you, through conscious inner work, reach this state of benevolent love, suffering ceases as if by magic. Love for the person may even remain, but it ceases to be a source of pain and transforms into a source of power, light, and warmth within you. You free yourself from the prison of attachment. To cultivate this state, the invitation is to engage in a blessed love meditation, a quiet moment. Instead of doing the usual visualization of imagining the person coming to you, shift your focus. Visualize this person happy, peaceful, and fulfilled, just as they are right now, in their life. Feel their happiness. And from your heart, genuinely send out to them a wave of gratitude for the lesson they have taught you, and a wave of pure, unconditional love, wishing them well, without any condition. And then, notice how this act of generosity shifts your own frequency from a state of lack to a state of fullness. Think of attachment as a cold, dark planet that desperately needs to orbit a sun to receive light and warmth, and constantly fears the darkness. Pure love is the process of becoming your own sun. It is learning to generate light and warmth from your own center, unconditionally. Other planets and stars can even be warmed by your light, and you can rejoice in their presence. But your existence and your ability to shine no longer depend on anyone but yourself. We have reached the final chapter of this inner journey. It begins at the moment of rock bottom, the moment when all hopes of a future with that person are finally exhausted. The struggle ceases, the energy of obsession dissipates, and what remains is a deafening silence, an immense void. It is the dark night of the soul, a state of desolation where it seems that we have lost not only the person, but also a part of ourselves. It is precisely at this point of total defeat of the ego, in this fertile void, that the true purpose of the journey reveals itself. This is the final call to your individuation. Depth psychology and mystical traditions teach us that it is only when all external sources of light are extinguished, when hope in an external savior dies, that we are finally forced, by sheer necessity, to find the light that exists within ourselves. And the ultimate revelation, the truth that illuminates all darkness, is this: the goal of this soul-orchestrated journey was never union with another person. The goal was always union with yourself. The impossible person was the perfect catalyst, the precise and necessary tool to break your codependency, to force you to stop begging for love and validation, and to force you to become the source of your own love, your own worth, and your own purpose. Impossibility, seen from this perspective, was the greatest act of mercy your soul could have granted you. And as acceptance of this truth settles in your heart, a new question emerges. A question that no longer looks to the past, but builds the future. Now that all the energy I spent on this quest is finally free and back to me, where does myself want me to direct it? What project, what passion, what part of me has been neglected all this time and can now finally be born? Think of the caterpillar. To become a butterfly, it needs to enter a cocoon and dissolve completely in a primordial soup, completely losing its old form. The impossible love was your cocoon. The pain of dissolution you felt, the emptiness, was not your death. It was your metamorphosis, and by accepting this dissolution, you did not lose a love. You were, in secret and in the darkness, building your own wing. We reread together the story of your pain, and where before we saw a cosmic tragedy, a cruel joke, we can now see a master class of the soul, a journey orchestrated with divine precision, the sole purpose of promoting your awakening and your healing. And that person, the center of your old pain, can now be seen in a new light, not as a lost love, but perhaps as your most effective and relentless guru, a spiritual teacher in disguise who, through his unavailability, taught you lessons about self-love, detachment, and inner strength that no gentle mentor could ever teach. For as Jung taught us, he who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens. This entire experience, with all its pain and beauty, was yourself's infallible mechanism to force you to stop dreaming of salvation from without, and finally awaken to the immense power that has always existed within you. Honor the pain you felt, for it was the exact measure of the depth of your transformation. Thank this person for the crucial and often unconscious role they played in your soul's script. Release them with love, wishing them well, and now, with a wiser heart, healed wounds, and a more whole soul, turn toward the true and most important relationship this journey has prepared you for, the relationship with the magnificent, infinite totality of who you are.